ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः। 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 ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः।
वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ॐ गणपतये नमः। ॐ गणपतये नमः। ॐ गणपतये नमः। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्।
रक्ताभां त्रिनेत्रा अरुणिमावसना रत्नताटङ्करम्या हस्ताम्भोजैः सपाशाङ्कुश मदनधनुस्सायकैः विस्फुरन्ति आपीनो तुङ्गवक्षोरुह कलशलुटत्तारहारोज्ज्वलाङ्गी ध्यायेत् अम्बोरुहस्ता अरुणिमवसना ईश्वरी ईश्वराणाम् ईश्वरी ईश्वराणाम्। Namaste and welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam or KYG. Thank you as always for taking time to attend this class, this satsang, and giving Maya and I an opportunity to share our thoughts, our perspectives, and to offer this divine service of spending time in divine contemplation of some of the highest realms of consciousness known to mankind, studied by mankind, revealed to us by the ancient civilizations that existed many, many thousands of years ago. Today's satsang or today's class, if you will, I pray that Goddess Saraswati sits on my tongue, the goddess of learning, of wisdom, because I'm going to share a concept that has over time revealed itself to me, and that addresses perhaps the most fundamental question of all for those of you especially who study the Sri Chakra. Sri Chakra, or the yantra as we have seen so far and understood to some extent, is not a static picture or a diagram. It is a snapshot of a vibrating frequency, of a rotational frequency. A snapshot of that given to us so that we get a chance, a doorway to enter. You know, when you go to these, as a child, I remember we used to go to these fairs, little fairs, and they have these horses that would go, we call that the merry-go-round, if you will, and then they just keep going. How do you get into that? It has to stop at some point for us to jump in. And once you're in, and then you're on a horse or you're on an elephant, I don't know which one you choose, and then you're just in that beautiful momentum, experiencing that. So the Sri Chakra has been that. However, the burning question, if you will, or the fundamental question, has been the direction of this rotation. How do we practice this in a ritual? Do we go clockwise as we did in our classes? Or do we go counterclockwise, which is one of the most popular means of rituals today that is prevalent? Always remember, and especially in these days remember, as a general rule and as a philosophy in life, something that is popular need not be right. I'm not saying that is wrong, but it need not be the only way, it need not be the right way, simply because it is popular. So there is a quote, and I'm quoting this. I don't know who quoted this or who wrote this, the author. And I hope I say this correctly, and I quote, "Just because everybody does something, that something does not become right. And just because nobody does this thing does not become wrong." It is just something that we need to understand and keep it as a philosophy in life. Otherwise, we will just be carried away by what everybody else does. Everybody else is doing it, so it must be right, and therefore I will also do it. That just does not work in spirituality. And I say this very emphatically. It does not work in spirituality. Even Adi Shankara says, Satsangatve Nitsangatvam. You be in a company, learn from everyone, understand, listen, and all of that. But go to Nitsanga, go away from Satsanga, discover your path. Carve your path. So this is very important, and the reason why I'm putting this out here, because the way I have approached the Sri Chakra and gone around clockwise is not something commonly practiced today, and you will not see that in any internet or any other channel. As far as I know, I don't think you will see it, but if you do, good for you. because a particular tradition, not that it is wrong, maybe the guru knew why or how, because there is the particular tradition that gets popularized, then everybody just follows it. Nobody wants to go against the current, nobody wants to explain anything against or different, and it just goes, I guess. I guess that's why that this, what I'm going to present today, is perhaps not been presented before. And so please listen. I present this with all humility. And as I always say, this is how Shri, I call the Sri Chakra Shri, because that is just Shakti. She has revealed herself to me in this form, and therefore this is how I practice. It doesn't matter to me if the entire world practices something else. If it makes sense to them, fine. But for me, this is the practice. And it has given me tremendous and amazing benefits. But rather than tell you this is what I experience and therefore you experience and expect you to put your entire faith in my words, I will tell you why, how. Not that I arrived at this through this means, but if I want to tell you, it was an exercise for me to see whether this stands on its own logic, if you will, or explanation, if you will, that appeals to our mind and our heart and our intuition. So we might say, yes, there is some depth to this kind of thinking. So I am hoping to open your mind to what I have to present. I don't expect you to buy into it. I don't expect you to say, yes, it makes sense right away. But think about it. Compare it, if you will. Because this is a study, if you want to make it a part of your sadhana, as I did, as part of the yoga path. This is an important contribution to the chakra awakening, the chakras opening, and the experience of the Mahashakti, the Mahanitya herself. And therefore, let us go to this topic. This is the crux of the topic today. I might even change the topic of this particular class so that you can come back to it and remember. The Sri Chakra worship, the ritual of the Sri Chakra. We have understood now, or at least try to understand the energies and all of that. Now we're coming to the rituals, but before we begin the ritual next week, go part by part, I want to explain this very fundamental thing. So I call it the Sri Chakra worship. Clockwise or counterclockwise? What should it be? Now I want to introduce you to a concept of rotations, because clockwise, counterclockwise are what? Are directional rotations. So the fundamental question we need to understand and accept this as a matter of fact, that directional or directional rotations are merely a matter of perspective. Now you might say, wait a minute, but if there is a clockwise rotation, everybody is looking at it, shouldn't it be clockwise? Why would it be a matter of perception there? It's pretty straightforward, correct? So the best way I thought is I'll explain to you with this little toy I found in Walmart. I did buy a couple of spinning tops. I was not happy. I thought I might make a separate video. It didn't work out. So let's start with this, and I hope I'll be able to convince you. So here is a simple top that I'm holding in my hand, and I'm going to rotate it in a particular direction. Okay, so you are seeing it rotating in a particular direction. Let me see if I can hold it properly. From where you're seeing it, you are seeing it rotating in one angle. I am seeing it from the back, so I'm going to see it rotating in a different direction. So clockwise or counterclockwise. So let us rotate it clockwise, or maybe counterclockwise for you. So let's go. So this for you, I know in the TV it appears, so let me do it very slowly. So this is rotating for you counterclockwise, correct? Very simple. Now watch what happens as it is turning. I flip it. Now is it rotating to you? It's rotating for you clockwise. What did I do? I simply turned the angle of view, 180 degrees. So this way, I know it's childish, but bear with me. This is the fundamental truth in the universe, and we come to it finally in the Sri Chakra itself. So childish though it may seem, please bear with me. So let me do it one more time. I'm just simply rotating it. It's counterclockwise. And this I turn it around 180 degrees. Now it becomes clockwise rotation for you. If I were to hold it like this on one side, and I were to do this, and I turn it around and see this way, the direction changes. The same thing is if I would hold it like this and rotate it, it is in one direction, and when I hold it up, it is another direction. Clockwise one way. The spinning has not changed. The spinning is the same. But from where I see it, right now it appears to me counterclockwise. When I raise it up and look from below, it is clockwise. This is the basis of calculations in Vedic astrology and so on. We'll touch upon it just a little bit. I don't want to deviate too much, but I want you to focus on this. So the fundamental hypothesis or the fundamental principle I want to put out there is ultimately it is a matter of perspective. If somebody says, no, it is clockwise, somebody says it is counterclockwise, ask them from where are you looking at it? You're looking at it from top or you're looking at it from the bottom. Let's hold on to that thought. There is a limitation to this when we apply it to the Sri Chakra and to our realm of what we call real. Whether we like it or not, deep into our subconscious and unconscious, this is our reality. It is embedded there. Okay? So we have to start from there. And then only we can say this is not real, matter of perception and all that. That is when realization comes. At this point, this is what it is, right? So we have to start from there, accept it, not fight it. So nevertheless, this perception that I was talking about, all of this, applies when it is a two-dimensional diagram. There is a back to it, there's a front to it. There's a up to it, there is a down to it. It's simple. But the Sri Chakra is not like that. The Sri Chakra that you and I see on the screen, the Sri Chakra that we call it as a yantram, it's a flat copper plate on which the diagram is done. Unfortunately, I didn't prepare that. I was just running out of time so much because I had so much of the other short videos I had to collect. But you know, we have seen it so many times now over the previous classes. So that Sri Chakra is a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional structure that we call the Meru. So Sri Chakra is actually a three-dimensional existence, just like our world, the cosmos, the creation, the solar system, Milky Way, and all of that, right? It's a three-dimensional. So we have to see that and understand it, and therefore it is not as simple as simply saying depends on where that yantram is. So I keep it up and look at it below. I could say it's rotating clockwise, and so it's not as simple as it, but yet we have to understand whatever the rotation is, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, rotational, directional, rotational, and rotation itself. We'll come to that when we touch upon the 8th Avarana once again in this class. So bear with me, it takes a little time. I don't think it will, but let's see. But nevertheless, directional rotation and rotation itself, movement itself, a matter of perception, as is stillness. Because at the end, all of that disappears with realization. So, I have laid the basis. Hopefully, this far, you're with me. Let us now go, therefore, to the second question. And the second question would be, all right, we got this directional rotation, we understand it, it's a matter of perception. If there is something rotating, if there are two people looking at a wheel like this that is rotating, one from this side and one from this side, one is going to say it's rotating clockwise, one is going to say it's rotating counterclockwise. Let's come to the Sri Chakra. So What direction, therefore, does the Sri Chakra rotate? Now, I'm talking within the perspective range only. I'm not talking of absolute, because Sri Chakra in absolute sense, there is no rotation there. There is rotation and stillness, all loses its meaning. But how do we perceive the Sri Chakra? In other words, when we say what direction does it rotate, it's not an absolute rotation. It is what is the way then we should see. How do we perceive? What is the perception? Therefore, I put that question next. What is the perception do we adopt? Do we say the counterclockwise perception, or should we say clockwise perception? The Sri Chakra rotation. What is the direction that the Sri Chakra rotates? What do you think it would be? I would like to put out the answer first and explain why. In our scheme of reality, in our definition of this dimension and so-called reality, I would say that the Sri Chakra that represents the cosmos as you and I experience it, the Sri Chakra rotates in counterclockwise direction. Counterclockwise is also known as anti-clockwise. In India, I think we call it anti-clockwise. Here in the US, I learned to say counterclockwise because in one of the yoga classes, I said, rotate your neck anti-clockwise. Everybody stopped. They said, what does that mean? So I became more conscious. So anyway, counterclockwise. The Sri Chakra rotates counterclockwise. I know in the classes we went clockwise in all the Avaranas, all the chakras. Hold on to that thought. The Sri Chakra rotates counterclockwise. Why do I say that? Where do I draw this inference from? Very simple. So for that, let's watch this little clip. The earth, our beloved Mother Earth, our home in this dimension. This is how the earth rotates. Yes, I know, I'm aware. If you look at it from the top, it is rotating in one direction. If you go to the South Pole or below the South Pole and look up, it will rotate in another direction. One could be clockwise, one could be counterclockwise. If you go down and look up, it is going to rotate clockwise. But let's move that. As you see this from the outside, you find that the earth is rotating counterclockwise. That is the natural rotation from the Big Bang, if you will, from the Om, from the primordial Hreem or Ha that came from Hayagriva. From there, everything rotates counterclockwise. That is the easiest way we see it. That is how satellites see it. That's how from space it is viewed, it is seen. And not only the earth, let's go to the next clip. Not only the earth, all the celestial bodies, not all, I'll hold on to that thought. Not all, but most of the celestial bodies in our solar system also rotate counterclockwise around the sun. The earth rotates counterclockwise, the moon goes around the earth counterclockwise, so do all the planets. Except Venus. Venus is the only one that goes clockwise around itself. Around the sun it goes counterclockwise, but around itself it goes clockwise. So it is called Ashura Guru. It is exactly opposite, and therefore there's a whole explanation for that. We won't touch upon that here, but I just wanted to put it out there so I'm not misstating any facts. Not all the planets as we see here. I believe Uranus too, but Uranus is not part of our study and we don't consider that as any impact on the mind, and therefore it doesn't play a role in our study, in our practice, in our meditations. It is too far out to have any impact on us. Anything beyond Saturn is of no consequence. As per Vedic astrology, and that I follow that, I believe in that. And that's good enough for me. All right. So this is counterclockwise. Now, a question might arise for those of you, since I touched upon Vedic astrology, let me just touch upon that topic here. In the Vedic astrology, for those of you who know a birth chart, they will show all the planets are moving clockwise. Except Rahu and Ketu, they say Rahu and Ketu are the ones moving counterclockwise, but then all the other planets are moving clockwise. Now, this is only for those of you who know about Vedic astrology. This is very basics. If you're just interested, please listen. If you can't follow that, just understand why that concept came. That concept came because of where are you looking at this rotation from. Now, in a horoscope, birth horoscope, when it is drawn, whether it's a North Indian style or the South Indian style, I'm talking of the Vedic astrology, it is a geocentric model. I am the earth and I am looking up at the planet's rotation, and so my perception creates my reality. My perception, therefore, because I'm looking from down at the planets, including the sun, because it's a geocentric model, they appear to go clockwise, and that is what is represented in the birth chart, Vedic astrology chart. So it is not like they missed it and they didn't know. This is a study of the cosmos. But the entire Vedic astrology is based on a geocentric model. Just like you and I say, hey, the sun is risen in the east and the sun sets in the west. Does it really rise? Does it really set? No. But for us, it is a reality. That is how it is. That is how it influences our thinking. Please wake me up at sunrise. And so on, we say. Don't sleep after sunrise, we say. So for us, that is a reality. So that is just for Vedic astrology. In case something crossed your mind, I just put it out there. Coming back to our point, the entire cosmos, the Milky Ways, spiraling in the cosmos, especially our Milky Way, is counterclockwise. And therefore, the solar system, and therefore, I say, even our Milky Way, the spirals in our Milky Way is counterclockwise. So I say that Sri Chakra, therefore, rotates counterclockwise. That's easy for me. I don't have to break my head to think why and how it should be rotating clockwise. It is easy. The entire cosmos, and Sri Chakra represents the whole cosmos, and therefore it rotates counterclockwise. Simple. Simple enough. So now comes the burning question. What do we do then? If counterclockwise is the direction of the Sri Chakra rotation, shouldn't we also go counterclockwise, as is very popular, everybody does it, and doesn't that make sense? Shouldn't we go counterclockwise? I would beg to differ there. And I'll state the reasons why. The Sri Chakra is rotating counterclockwise, but in our puja, in our ritual, as we meditate on each of the Avarana, we enter the Avarana, and as we meditate on each of the petals or each of the locations in the squares or the locations in the triangle itself, of the triangles themselves and the energies in those triangles, I would like to go clockwise. As the chakra rotates counterclockwise, I would go clockwise. Why would I do that? Why would I not go along with the flow of the universe? Why would I not go along with it? Why would I want to go counterclockwise? My dear sisters and brothers, I want to draw your attention to the fundamental energy of the universe, and that is electromagnetism. The idea of creation, the idea of anything that comes out of nothing, comes from magnetism, and magnetism itself comes from a fundamental energy called two opposing forces. Shiva and Shakti, if you will, yin and yang, if you will. Purusha and Prakriti, if you will, the North Pole and the South Pole, if you will, the magnetic poles, if you will. It is the harmony and the coming together of the positive and the negative, the black and the white, the North Pole and the South Pole. And this coming together is what brings forth the creation. And therefore, if we want to trace our steps back to the source of the creation, we have to get into this, manifest the energy. What is our aim in Sri Chakra? Our aim in Sri Chakra is to manifest the energies that are dormant in each of those triangles. And in order to manifest the energy, I go face to face with that energy. And therefore, I mingle into that energy. Let's go back to that slide. I want to show you the fundamental energy, like I said, of the universe is, can we go back to the slide space? Is the North Pole and the South Pole, the magnetic waves. This is our reality. We cannot function without a North Pole and a South Pole. We cannot function without quote unquote resistance, quote unquote friction, quote unquote duality. The black and the white, the night and the day, the low tide and the high tide, the inhalations, exhalations, everything is exactly opposite to the other. That is what keeps us going. Our breath is what keeps us alive. But because breath keeps me alive, do I only inhale? I cannot live. I have to exhale as well. So I want to establish the necessity for countering a force which brings forth a beauty such as this. In the northern pole, you get this aurora borealis, which is the earth pushing all the magnetic energy up there. And then the solar wind comes, it breaks through, some of it breaks the solar energy, some of it breaks through the magnetic resistance of the earth, which otherwise protects all of us. And you see this dazzling play of lights. I just wanted to throw it out there. How beautiful. So beauty can be created, and of course it is. When the earth resists the roots going down, the plant becomes stronger. And therefore there is the yin and the yang is a seed. The seed has to be sown, the sperm has to be deposited into the womb, and therefore there has to be a mix of the yin and the yang, the female and the male, the Shiva and the Shakti, the clockwise and the counterclockwise. And therefore we come to the cog in the wheel. There is no experience of progress without this. One wheel rotates clockwise, the other wheel, in order to experience its partner, has to rotate in other direction. So one goes clockwise, the other goes counterclockwise. Look at that. Look at what is happening. Then the teeth get into each other. There is a union. There is a spark, if you will, that happens. A manifestation occurs. Talking of manifestation, another example I want you to impress you all with, because these are the fundamental energies of the universe, the potter's wheel. The potter's wheel, popularly, for the most part, rotates counterclockwise. Now, that is not related to our discussion, but nevertheless, here I want you all to see if the potter's wheel is rotating counterclockwise, what is the potter doing in order to create something? Though his hands appears to be still, he is actually rotating it clockwise. Watch it carefully. The wheel is rotating counterclockwise, but the potter rotates his hand clockwise. Take one more view of another one. The wheel is rotating counterclockwise. The potter with his hand resists In other words, he is resisting that movement. In other words, he is moving clockwise. And therefore, what is the end product? What is the result of these two opposing forces, his hand and the wheel? A beautiful creation is happening. Something is coming to life. Because of what? Because of resistance. What if the potter not resist and go with the flow? Nothing will happen. It will just be going around in circles. They will not, nothing will manifest there. Because that is not the fundamental energies of creation. If we want manifestation, if we want beauty, if we want creativity, if we want art, if we want an experience, that experience comes out of two opposing forces. We learned this in one of the oldest Puranas and the oldest story, where the entire ocean of milk was churned by the Devas and the Asuras. They churned, first of all, two opposing forces. The Devas are the divine beings, the Asuras are the demons. They both had to come on level grounds and churn. That means the two forces have to meet. And there was born, at the end product of that, was born the nectar of immortality and so on. The essence of that story is this. Two opposing forces have to come into play for a manifestation, for an experience, for a progress, or for anything. And therefore, there is this potter. The Shiva Lingam actually is a representation of the stillness of that potter's hand. The Shiva appears to be still. And Shakti in her creation is twirling around him. That is why it is said the Shiva Lingam, the base of the Shiva Linga, is actually Shakti encircling Shiva, which means she is a twirling energy. He appears to be still, but he is not. He is resisting that. In that resistance of Shakti and Shiva, the entire creation comes about. And therefore we say Shiva is still, Shiva is meditating, Shakti is the one that creates, and so on and so forth. The Shiva Lingam in its entirety, the base that holds the stone on top, is the Shakti. And Shiva is the potter. And that creation of that Lingam and the dance of Shakti around him is the Shiva Tandava, the Ardhanarishwara, and all of that. The whole concept of creation is nothing in these energies are still. It is made still for you and I to get a glimpse of what is going on. Otherwise, we would have never understood these concepts. So I hope you are with me so far. But I want to emphasize one more thing, the beauty of this. I tried my best to get a video of Indian dance, an Indian dance called the Ras or Dandiya Ras or Garba. This is a dance dedicated to the Krishna consciousness, where one circle goes counterclockwise, the outside circle goes clockwise, and they have sticks that they hit each, and they clap those sticks, and it's a beautiful dance. I love it. I used to do it a lot in Bombay when I was growing up. And it's just a matter of going into trance doing that dance. It was a part of the tradition for thousands of years because it explains the fundamental dance of Krishna and Gopikas, creator and creation, Shiva and Shakti, Purusha, Prakriti, and so on. So there has to be a clockwise, counterclockwise. These are all not copyrighted in the sense I had to buy them, but I could not buy one. The Rasa Krida, so I could not find a good one. So I have this dance which explains the same thing. The waltz. So watch what's happening here. The male and the female appear to be moving together. Overall, there seems to be harmony and unison in movement, but actually the young men are moving in one direction. The young women are moving in the opposite direction. Though they appear to move together, One's left side is the other person's right side. One's clockwise turn is the other person's counterclockwise turn. You see, all of them seem to be moving together. But watch, whose left hand and whose right hand? If they both decide to hold their left hands, then they wouldn't be able to do this. One's left hand has to be the other's right hand. When we go to a temple, and this is a small video clip from Indonesia temple, the famous Trinity temple. I forget the name, it's just not coming to me now. Nevertheless, when we go to a temple, and this is a very familiar ritual for those of us who are from India. When we go to temples, we go to shrines, what do? What direction? First of all, we go around the temple. So going in a rotation itself creates a circle of energy. That is a fundamental, very powerful energy circle that we do. But what direction do we go? We go clockwise because the temple is actually counterclockwise. And therefore, as we go clockwise, we come face to face with the deities. That is why we are asked to go clockwise around a temple, as you would see in this short video of a beautiful Swaminarayan temple. This lady here is going counterclockwise, as you would do, I would do in any temple. But as we are going, the temple and the deities greet us. This is a direction that has been in vogue and in practice for thousands of years. She, as a worshipper, is doing the ritual clockwise, as we do in the Sri Chakra. So imagine this is the Sri Chakra. The Sri Chakra is moving counterclockwise. We are going around the Sri Chakra. In every Avarana, we go clockwise. So we come face to face. The yin and the yang meet. The Devis merge into us. We merge into the Devis. Manifestation happens. Creativity happens because that is a fundamental nature of the universe. As long as the I persists, the ahankara, the I am concept persists, I as Sundar persists, or I as the soul, I as the jiva, I as the spirit, the I persists, this will be the experience. So we go clockwise, the Sri Chakra goes counterclockwise. Don't get confused. The rotation of the Sri Chakra is counterclockwise, in tune with the energies of the universe and the earth and the planets and so on. But we, as this young lady here, as we go around the Sri Chakra in every Avarana, we are going clockwise. And that is why when I worship the Sri Chakra, when I enter the Avarana, I go clockwise around the Sri Chakra. The deities and the positions of deities in the Sri Chakra, like I already said once, when we talked about Kala Bhairava and the Bhairavis and so on, these are energies and rotations at such high frequencies and vibrations that there is really no way of saying who belongs where. But it was given to us. This is spoon-fed to us by the ancients who took a snapshot. This was given to them from Agastya through that meditation and the Bijakshara of Hrim, saw the Sri Chakra. He was able to grasp that as a snapshot. That's why he is given that celestial place that we talked in the previous class. But for you and I, for us to experience Sri Chakra, at least for me, I find this the most divine practice. As I go around it, I go around temples clockwise. For me, the clockwise rotation reminds me of the counterclockwise rotation, and I meet that in that yin and the yang meets, the Shiva and Shakti dance begins. Manifestations begin to occur. Experiences begin to occur because spark is there. A life is born. A deity is born. A deity is energized when these two energies meet. This is my experience, this is my belief, and this is what I'm sharing with you all for your own consumption, for your own assimilation and experience. Think about it. See what makes sense to you. There is, however, then an exception that we made, and that was in the 8th Avarana. In the 8th Avarana, as I went, and I'll explain that, we'll come to that small little picture. We went counterclockwise. The 8th Avarana is the second last gate. Like I said, that is just where three gunas are there. And that was an exception to these rotations. Why was that an exception? And therefore, how do we practice this as a ritual when we are practicing the 8th Avarana? Alone, when we come to that, it is different. Whatever you do in that 8th Avarana will be different. That's why right in the beginning we said in the Khadgamala, you will notice right in the beginning, we talk about the 16 phases of the moon. And when we mention those 16 phases and call those energies, we go straight into the 8th Avarana. As we saw that a few classes ago. And we go counterclockwise. Now that alone changes because that is the 16 phases of the moon. You do it counterclockwise and along with the flow of all cosmic things as the moon is waxing. And you go clockwise as the moon is waning. Just for those Nitya Devis, because the Nitya Devis represent the mind's experience. The mind experience, and to understand that this is the mind's way of looking at things. When it is waxing, we go counterclockwise, like I showed you in the class as we did them. While the moon is waning, if you are doing Devi Khadgamala, then you go clockwise, only for the Nitya Devis, only at that 8th Avarana, because that is where you place them. You place them right there. That is to establish the potential of human mind. We talked about that in detail. So let me go back to that 8th Avarana here again. You have the 8th Avarana. You have Mahakameshwari. Then we went to Mahavajreshwari. Notice that we were going counterclockwise here. And then we went to Mahabhagamalini. My dear sisters and brothers, here it is that stillness that we saw in that potter's hand. Just a few minutes ago, we saw the potter's wheel going counterclockwise in one particular direction. The potter's hand appeared still, but actually was moving, but it appeared still. What happens here in Mahakameshwari, Mahavajreshwari, Mahabhagamalini? If you have followed my classes, you will know that when we come to the 7th Avarana, we study about the Sashtanga Namaskara, the eight energies. There are so many ways to interpret those energies, but we took an easier one for now. So there is these 8 energies there, we completely surrender to them. They also called the energies of Vak or sound. So finally we surrender that element completely, ourselves completely. So who is experiencing the 8th Avarana? Not you, not I. At this point, there is a little bit of the I. At this point, the river is merging into the ocean. The I is disappearing. What is remaining is just Mahakameshwari, Mahavajreshwari, Mahabhagamalini, and they are simply rotating as per the cosmos, counterclockwise. You are not even there for you to go around clockwise. There is no room for you there. Because in the seventh Avarana, the one before this, you've already surrendered yourself completely, and only then you will even get an opportunity to come to an understanding of this. So here you are in the process, and you are merging, becoming Mahakameshwari, who is also absorbing all Mahavajreshwari, Mahabhagamalini. All of them are beginning to merge, and assuming that they are rotating counterclockwise, you are not there to experience. And because you are not there to experience, the I is not there to experience, who experiences the rotation? There is no rotation, because rotation is relative. Movement is relative. The three energies, that is where I said, initially I said that idea, the rotation itself is a matter of perspective. That is why we place the 16 Nitya Devis here, from the mind. We place them right in the innermost triangle, because that is a matter of perspective. Though at that level, right in the beginning of the puja, yes, my mind exists. I go clockwise, counterclockwise. But by the time I come to the 8th Avarana, I don't exist. So who exists? Mahakameshwari, Mahavajreshwari, Mahabhagamalini. The three gunas rotate in order to maintain the creation. And as the I is merging, that rotation is the cosmic scheme of things, and therefore that is counterclockwise. If there is a rotation at all, but I won't know, because I won't be there to experience it. And because I wouldn't experience, they are the ones who experience and go back to the Mahabindu, Mahabhattarika, Lalita Tripura Sundari. That is how beautiful, powerful, energizing this is. I want to give you a pictorial representation as we bring this satsang to an end. I know it may have been intense, but I hope I did some justice in explaining to you why we are doing these things, because you have to understand the whys and the hows and question. There is no harm in questioning. Only when your heart is clear of doubts, your heart and your conscience and your mind and everything is one with the ritual you're doing, it becomes spiritual. Otherwise, it's merely a ritual. You're going with the flow, nothing happens. But you ask yourself, why? Something begins to happen. I want to leave you with this beautiful imagery. So I will get out of the picture. This is a small clip from, I can never pronounce it, but it's a long tongue twister. A lake in Norland, Norway. The river is merging into the ocean. The 8th Avarana. When I see this, I'm always reminded of the 8th Avarana. The river is slowly losing its identity. It has not become the ocean yet, but it is no longer the river as well at this point, right at that point. And the ocean is coming back into the river. The river is trying to go into the ocean. The 8th Avarana is born, where Mahakameshwari, Mahavajreshwari, Mahabhagamalini, it does not matter their direction, their movement, because the I doesn't exist, only they exist. And the three gunas finally merge into that one bindu. Everything ultimately merges into that divine scheme of things. And that is realization. That is enlightenment. Let us bring this satsang to an end with a beautiful dhyana sloka that we will learn to chant in the beginning, as we have been chanting many days throughout this practice. Let us meditate on that primordial Prakriti, primordial mother energy, the divine energy that sustains this universe, that guide us all back into the Shiva consciousness, into oneness. रक्ताभां त्रिनेत्रां अरुणिमवसना रत्नताटङ्करम्या हस्ताम्भोजैः सपाशाङ्कुश मदनधनुस्सायकैः विस्फुरन्ति आपीनो तुङ्गवक्षोरुह कलशलुटत्तारहारोज्ज्वलाङ्गी ध्यायेत् अम्बोरुहस्ता अरुणिमवसना ईश्वरी ईश्वराणाम् ईश्वरी ईश्वराणाम् समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु. May all the beings in all the worlds be happy. जय बोलो पवन सुत हनुमान की
जय,
सियावर रामचंद्र की
जय,
सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की
जय,
नमः पार्वती पतये
हर हर महादेव. ओम शांति शांति शांति.